Xu Shuiqiang has replaced He Weidong. Military power is being restructured. Hello, friends. Today is April 29th, 2025. Tuesday. Welcome to this episode of Inside View of China. In recent days, many international big media have been paying close attention to and reporting on is the vice chairman of the Central Military Commission, He Weidong. He was absent from the 20th collective study of the Political Bureau of the Central Committee. Some media even directly used words such as being investigated and arrested. So, this kind of news will certainly cause a major earthquake in public opinion. Many friends sent me private messages asking me if He Weidong is doomed, and more than one. I think there are hundreds of messages asking me. My answer is that we can't draw conclusions so quickly, because from the official information of the CPC, He Weidong's position is still shown normally, and the official websites of the Chinese government and the Ministry of Defense have not changed. This means that in terms of the system and procedures, he has not been officially dealt with. But on the other hand, a vice chairman of the Central Military Commission, after the National People's Congress concluded, has been absent for over a month. He has missed many major political and military events. In the CCP system is also extremely unusual. Behind this, it's not just a simple cold, or illness is not that simple. Of course, what is more intriguing is that on the collective study where He Weidong was absent, there was also a person who shouldn't have been there. The Minister of the Equipment Development Department, Air Force General Xu Shuiqiang. Although he sat in the last row, but in such a hierarchical setting as the Politburo, who can appear in such an occasion, it means that he has authorization and trust, and has weight in the system. So what we need to do today is not simply to guess whether He Weidong has been arrested, but to look at it more systematically and deeply. Why did He Weidong absent is worthy of our attention. Who is Xu Shuiqiang? Why was he pushed to the forefront at such a sensitive node? Be pushed to the front. What kind of power reshuffle has occurred within the military? Between military and artificial intelligence, military-civilian integration, what are the new layouts? And so on. How will all this affect China's military strategy and even the entire future direction? Before the program officially begins, as usual, please like, subscribe, leave comments, every interaction of yours. It's all a kind of support for a weak voice like me. Also, welcome to the Apple Podcast, Spotify podcast platform. Search Do When or Inside View of China, and listen to the audio program at any time. Okay, let's officially enter today's topic. Recently, many media have been reporting on He Weidong. Many comments directly inferred that something happened to him. But if we restore the timeline completely, we will find that He Weidong's abnormality didn't start with this collective study, but it started much earlier in mid-March. On March 11th, the National People's Congress ended. So the last time He Weidong appeared publicly was still sitting on the podium. Then on March 17th, the 20th Anniversary Symposium on the Anti-Secession Law. This was originally an event that the vice chairperson of the Military Commission must attend, but He Weidong did not attend. The military representative was replaced by Joint Chief of Staff and the commander of the Eastern Theater Command, Lin Xiangyang. At that time, the Taiwan Strait naval exercise was ongoing. I got the news from the Chinese military that He Weidong was commanding the military exercise. On April 2nd, the Central Military Commission led him to participate in the capital's voluntary tree planting activities. Chairman of the Central Military Commission, Xi Jinping, led the team, and Zhang Yuxia was also present. Then the other top military commissioners have gathered. Only He Weidong did not appear. There is a tree planting day of the Beijing Central Military Commission and the Beijing Municipal Party Committee. He Weidong and Zhang Yuxia usually appeared together, but this year they didn't. From April 8th to 9th, the Central Work Economic Conference, which involves the overall situation of diplomacy and security. Almost all members of the Politburo and senior military officials attended, but there was no sign of He Weidong. On April 25th, the Politburo's 20th collective study, He Weidong was supposed to attend as a member of the Politburo. But he was absent again this time. The problem is that the official did not give any explanation, from mid-March to the end of April for more than 1.5 months. He Weidong continuously missed various major events, and there was no official explanation. In the CCP system, the top leaders continue to be invisible without any explanation. This can almost be regarded as a major anomaly. Normally, for a vice chairman of the Central Military Commission, suddenly disappears for a long time. It's usually due to illness, usually with a short official statement, or is on a foreign visit. There will also be public reports, or under internal investigation, or in a cold treatment stage. So at present, although there is no final evidence, but combined with the CCP's practice, the third possibility is rising continuously. However, we cannot assert that something has happened to him, because his identity is too special. He is a member of the Politburo Vice Chairperson of the State Military Commission and the Vice Chairperson of the Central Military Commission. Moving him requires legal procedures. He is different from any other official. Is different. There is no comparison. It's just that Qin Gang and Li Shangfu can't compare to him. So, let's finish talking about He Weidong's hidden spirit. Let's take a look at the sudden rise of Xu Xueqiang. The CCP military system pays great attention to background. Who comes from which system, what positions he has held, and at what time. And when they are promoted is very particular. It's definitely not any random officer can appear in the Politburo's collective study. Can appear in such occasions. As for Xu Xueqiang, he is from Yiyang, Hunan. He was born in 1964. He was born in the Air Force Equipment System. He worked at the Air Force Engineering Command College. He is a typical technical cadre, focusing on weapons, equipment, and engineering construction. With the military's information transformation, he joined the Air Force Equipment Department. He rose from the grassroots to deputy minister and minister. In the Chinese Army, the Air Force has always been the first to be exposed to high-tech. It should be the military branch that places the greatest emphasis on information warfare. Xu Xueqiang here, it has accumulated a lot of rich experience in technical equipment management. In 2015, Xi Jinping led the military reform. The former General Equipment Department was split, and a new Central Military Commission was established. Equipment Development Department, which directly reports to the chairman of the Central Military Commission. Xu Xueqiang took advantage of the situation and transferred to the Equipment Development Department of the Military Commission, and became the vice minister. By October 2022, with Li Shangfu suddenly disappearing due to anti-corruption, Xu Xueqiang was personally promoted by Xi Jinping and took over as the minister of the Equipment Development Department. So, Li Shangfu used to be the most popular person in the military-industrial system. He directly became the Minister of Defense. But later, something happened. Xu Xueqiang can be selected by Xi Jinping in that turbulent time. What does it mean? It shows that he is not a traditional military system person, but was personally selected by Xi Jinping, trusted technocrats. This is why Xu Xueqiang's growth path with Zhang Yuhia and He Weidong military leaders from the traditional combat command system is completely different. Xu Xueqiang represents the equipment development system as a technical bureaucracy rather than the traditional combat system. In fact, he reflects two forces changing within the People's Liberation Army. One is the traditional combat command system, which relies on leading troops to fight, right? Which started with training, exercises, and theater operations. The other is the equipment development system, focusing on weapons and equipment research and development, National Defense Scientific and Technological Innovation System construction, and so on. With Xi Jinping proposing the strategy of strengthening the army, especially emphasizing the move towards intelligence. So the people in this technical system have rapidly risen in the military. Unmanned combat, intelligent command systems, network warfare, cognitive warfare. These core areas of future warfare cannot be dominated by traditional commanders and generals, but by those who understand technology and equipment system operation to lead. Xu Xueqiang is the representative of this new era of military reform. He not only represents the People's Liberation Army, the transformation to a technology-driven army, but also represents the reshaping of the future command system. It's not about charging with thousands of troops, it's about smart systems. Robots command machines. Humans are just interveners at the top of decision-making. So, when it comes to this, we naturally have to ask a question. In this context, why is it Xu Shuqiang rather than other military leaders? Right, he was pushed up. This is a question. This involves the current power structure of the Central Military Commission. The existing military commission team, the core is Xi Jinping, followed by two vice-chairmen, Zhang Yuxia and He Weidong. Zhang Yuxia is a veteran original General Assembly Department system, and later shifted to Strategic Command. Basically, a reliable old minister. But the problem is, Zhang Yuxia is already in his 70s, and he can't keep up with physical and mental strength. In the Central Military Commission is more like a figure to maintain the scene. The one who makes decisions and executes them requires a younger and more dynamic leader. He Weidong was originally expected. He comes from the army and has a lot of experience in actual combat, and he has experience in the Joint Staff. Theoretically, he should be the core of the successor, but at such a critical moment, he disappeared. If something really happened to He Weidong, the position of vice chairman of the Central Military Commission. According to the CCP's internal practice, this position must be filled by someone above the level of with excellent qualifications to fill. Generally speaking, it should be promoted from the combat system, such as the deputy chief of the Joint Staff Department or theater commanders. Promoted from here. This time, Xu Shuiqiang frequently appears in the highest occasions. The highest level of this occasion, it sends a strong signal that Xi Jinping is breaking the traditional promotion logic. He is promoting people from the equipment and technology system. Why? Because the focus of future wars is no longer traditional ground theater warfare, but intelligent and systematic warfare. Drone fleet intelligent command center, automated weapon systems, and war algorithm deduction. These are the next stage, the real core competitiveness of the PLA. And who can understand these? Of course, it is the people who develop equipment systems, so Xu Shuiqiang's rapid promotion is not accidental, but is an inevitable result of the CCP's strategic layout change. Let's go back to the relationship between Zhang Yuxia and Xu Shuiqiang. On the surface, they belong to the same equipment system. They should be closer. But in fact, the actual situation. It's not a simple question of old people helping new people, Zhang Yuxia's current role. More like a veteran with a stable military heart. He is old and has experienced many rounds of military reforms. He is used to doing less and defending more. And Xu Shuiqiang was personally appointed by Xi Jinping, who bypassed the traditional equipment system. It is a new technological force that Xi Jinping directly intervenes in and cultivates by himself. In other words, although Xu Shuiqiang comes from the equipment line, but he is not Zhang Yuxia's person, but directly under the command of Xi Jinping. This explains why, after He Weidong's absence, the military didn't get people from the traditional combat system to catch up right away. But Xu Shuiqiang represents the military attend the Politburo's collective study directly. The theme of this political study. This issue is actually very critical. You see, the theme is to strengthen the development and regulation of AI. Why is the Political Bureau of the CPC Central Committee at such a time Node hold a collective study on artificial intelligence? And the military will attend in person? Because artificial intelligence is no longer a simple technological issue, but also national security, the core strategic resource of future wars. The core of future wars will no longer be about numbers or shells, but who has more advanced intelligent systems? Who can use AI to deduce the situation? Who can use drone clusters to seize air supremacy? Who can use intelligent communication systems to ensure the command chain is continuous? Who can occupy an absolute advantage in future wars? And so on. As early as 2014, proposed a third offset strategy. They will use AI, drones, combat, and network warfare to break the traditional military advantage. As for the Communist Party of China, has certainly followed closely. Yes, Xi Jinping has emphasized in many internal speeches in recent years to seize the commanding heights of intelligent warfare. So this collective study is ostensibly about the development and regulation of AI, but in fact, it is to lay the foundation for future military layout. The military's involvement in the field of artificial intelligence is no longer auxiliary but dominant. The military has a large amount of, should be said, the largest such closed source data. It has the top engineering and technology colleges, the strongest closed test scenarios, and the support of the national system. More importantly, the military has real combat needs, which can quickly apply artificial intelligence quickly to practical applications. This is why Xu Shuiqiang, the Minister of the Equipment Development Department of the Military Commission, appears at this occasion. His role is not just a technical bureaucrat in charge of equipment, but also in the future the main architect of the construction of intelligent warfare system. And all of this is closely linked to a larger context, called the new Military-Civilian Integration Strategy. Military-civilian integration is not simply for private companies, but to connect the civilian technology and military needs. It requires the national scientific and technological resources reorganized according to the needs of the war system. For example, autonomous driving technology is not only used, but also the basis of unmanned combat vehicles. Smart chips are not just mobile phone processors, but also the chips of weapon control systems. Big data intelligence. This analysis not only serves for commercial advertising, but also for battlefield situation prediction and decision-making simulation. Every cutting-edge technology developed by private enterprises may be transformed and applied in the military field. This study emphasizes strengthening the development and regulation of AI. In fact, it emphasizes 2 points. First, it should be autonomous and controllable, not relying on the US and not be choked. Second, it should be safe and controllable, to prevent AI technology from being manipulated or infiltrated, especially in the military field, must have absolute initiative. The military, as the largest actual application demand side, naturally has to play a leading role. And Xu Shuiqiang is the military, the executor of a first echelon in this intelligent transformation system. So, seeing this, the question arises, how will the future situation develop? What changes will happen within the military? What signals deserve our special attention? First of all, the most direct observation point is, of course, He Weidong's whereabouts. The military has remained silent. He Weidong's name is still listed on the government and defense websites, but he has not appeared for a month and a half, and he has missed important events continuously. This situation is very rare in the history of the CCP. If he is ill according to the usual practice, at least there should be a simple explanation. If he was on a trip, it's impossible that there is no itinerary public, so there are 2 biggest possibilities. Either he is seriously ill or he is under investigation. Of course, there is also or preparing for some major military operation. It's inconvenient to disclose. The military's decision not to disclose the situation, it should be understandable. So it's very likely that, in my opinion, he has been in a kind of cold treatment procedure. That is to say, it's still possible that he is under investigation. In the early May, especially before the May Day holiday or after that, will be a key observation window. If by that time, He Weidong still doesn't show up, or any form of refutation, then it's almost certain that things are on the board ding talk, and it will be announced by the official step-by-step. I think before May Day, around April 30th, or during the May Day holiday, it's quite possible to be announced. If he is investigated, even if it's just an internal case, it will be announced. This is a good window. Because at this time, in terms of public opinion, it's a wonderful opportunity. The popularity of public opinion is relatively low, and it's not easy to stir up any trouble. Once He Weidong is removed from his position, the vacancy of the vice chairperson of the Central Military Commission. At this time, Xu Shuiqiang has obviously stood in the spotlight. If Xu Shuiqiang is further promoted, he needs to meet 2 conditions. First, he needs to appear frequently in higher-level meetings. He appears frequently in higher-level meetings such as major national diplomatic and security conferences. Second, he is assigned a new military level or some kind of commander-in-chief role, such as acting as the vice chairperson of the Central Military Commission, or serving as the leader of the Strategic Support Force, and so on. If these two signals appear simultaneously, then it can be basically confirmed that Xu Shuiqiang's status has been equipped with the chief officer of this technology to the strategic decision-making level. A more profound change is the reshaping of the internal power map of the military. The generals of traditional combat systems, such as the Joint Staff System and commanders of major theaters, their status will be reassessed. The Equipment Development Department, Strategic Support Forces, the Rocket Force, unmanned combat systems will gain more and more say, budget, and command resources. The focus of the PLA will shift from quantitative to qualitative advantages, from the size of the force to the intelligence of the system, from traditional warfare to intelligent warfare. This is a fundamental change. Of course, this transformation process will not be smooth. Within the military, there are still many traditional generals. They subjectively dominate the combat system with technology, and they may not fully accept it. The redistribution of budget resources and the rearrangement of the status of military branches and the readjustment of command weight will bring hidden games and competitions. In the next year, if we see large-scale adjustments in the services, optimization of troop organization, speeding up the input of equipment systems, etc., and the intensification of senior generals' personnel changes, these will be a rebalancing of military power and the deepening of intelligent transformation. So Xu Shuiqiang's ascendancy is not only the rise of an individual, but also the entire army's systematization and technological transformation. This change is not only a reshuffle of forces within the CMC, but also part of the CCP's overall national strategy adjustment. It will directly affect China's future decade in the international. This pattern of military competition. Summarizing today's discussion, we can clearly see the following judgments. First, He Weidong's long-term disappearance is really unusual. It probably means that the military high level is undergoing a fierce and sensitive power reshuffle. Then I personally heard about this information from the Chinese military public sector. It means there is no abnormality. This is very important. There is no abnormality within the military. The second is the sudden rise of Xu Shuiqiang. No matter what happened to He Weidong, Xu Shuiqiang's sudden rise is very worthy of attention. He has appeared in many major occasions continuously. This is not accidental. This is under Xi Jinping's strategic layout, the rise of the military technology system. Thirdly, artificial intelligence as the country's highest tech strategy. The military is no longer a bystander, but a direct leader. Fourthly, the focus of the PLA will be completely shifted to intelligence. This kind of systematic combat, deep advancement of military-civilian integration, the power of equipment development systems and high-tech systems will rise rapidly. The last and most crucial point, behind all these changes, there is a clear pusher, Xi Jinping himself. He not only wants to promote the transformation of the army, but also shape the power structure of the military. Let the technocrats play a more important role in the future war system play a more important role. To ensure that in the new globalization military competition, not be marginalized or defeated. This is the internal perspective of China today, is what I want to share with you. Friends, if you think today's talk is valuable, please like, leave comments, subscribe, and share. Let more people hear it. The true voice from the inside of the Communist Party of China. Also, welcome to the Apple Podcast, Spotify podcast platform Search Douyin, or Inside View of China. This is the audio version of the program. Thank you for your company. See you in the next episode. Goodbye.